knees starts to turn into like stiff-legged movement, like stilted movement. So, yeah, thank you. Don't have to do that anymore. That's all good. Okay, so that's that. So now what I want to do is just have a look at the age. I'm going to build up to where we want the horse round. So in all these early things, he's not going to be round. I'll show you when we can get him round. So what I want you to think of is now ask, as your hand goes forward and back, it's during the back. If you notice while we're watching, this is so good to see, as Bridget's hand go back, that's when one leg goes forward. That's, in other words, that's a swing phase. So that's the moment we can use the reins. It's like we can actually halt by going woo, woo. So ask him to halt sometime. Good, okay. And he halted, and it's pretty much squarish. Now, when she did halt, let's have a look at some other aspect, because you see, we get taught, and this is the history of my riding career as well, you know, that we just do a transition, but no one ever says how long it should take. Now, the horse doesn't have he hasn't got a watch, so he doesn't measure time like we might try to, and it's going to be a little bit futile anyhow. So what is one thing we could do to capture a transition into a habit? And the answer obviously is going to be his footfalls, because that's measurable from his point of view and from ours. Now, if you measure the transitions of Charlotte Dujardin and anybody else who was ever any good, you will see it's always in 2 beats, complete by 3. So every transition's in 3 beats when you go up and down gates, in between gates, collected to extended, extended back to collected, gate to gate, faster to slower, anything. It's always in 2 beats, and that's what makes it beautiful. If it's in 1 beat, it's abrupt and horrible, and if it's in 3 beats, he starts to trail his back legs. And when it's in 2 beats, you don't need to use your legs in a downward transition. I know we often get taught that, but some of you may have had Anke van Grunsven here many years ago when she was liked in the work she does after the awful issues of roll cur. But she had some good things to say about various things, and I think we need to be respectful of people who've done. There's always something good about what they do. It's easy to can them and say they must be a monster, but actually there's some good things that she did. And one of the great things that she introduced to the world in her training was, and she wasn't the first to do it, it's been done in many other cultures, but she emphasised to the dressage world that you don't need to use your legs in a downward transition. And the reason people do is because they haven't captured it in the right footfalls, and she did. And capturing things in two footfalls where you go like this and you go, and woo, woo, is the right way to do it. And then you won't have the back legs trailing. If you capture the footfalls over 3 or 4 beats, that's when he starts to slow down and go over the forehand and his back legs are out the back. You won't notice it so much in work, but you definitely notice it in other transitions, and we'll do those in a minute. So what I'd like you to do is ask him, before you go, we'll talk about the go button, but when you halt, I'm going to get you to halt him see if you can halt him in 2 beats where you go, because that was 4, where you can halt him and go, and woo, woo, and if he does it, we'll teach him to do it. It won't take long. Now when you do go, hang on, before you go, our legs are also doing it in 2 beats. Now this is for the young horse. Soon the horse will learn to go from just 1 beat, and he probably does already. But the idea of doing it on the young horse in 2 beats is so that we can actually say to him, the first beat is saying walk, and the second beat says how fast. Because you see, otherwise you could end up teaching the horse to walk where he walks and goes like this. I mean, that's a walk still, but it's just way too slow. So you're basically saying pulse, pulse, so you get the horse straight away into 55. And if you maintain that in your training with a young horse, that becomes his habit. When you make habits really quickly, you avoid a lot of the fight that you might have in every other aspect. So just think of that. Now, when you do your go button, I'm saying let's use your legs, this part of your legs, your calf, to say go. That would be where you use it anyway, I guess. Is that right?
I think so.
I think so. I think I saw you use it like that. Most do. But you're just squeezing him with your calf and saying, thinking pulse, pulse. But what level is he?
He's probably schooling 3rd.
Yeah. And what does that mean? What's he doing?
Learning the flank changes.
Ah, good.
Small half pass.
Okay, so he's sort of mid-levels.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so he would already go into a good walk from even one pulse. But let's talk about the young horse, and I'm going back to that, so, and how he learns it. So just squeeze him on now and go pulse, pulse with your leg, pulse, pulse. So he goes straight away into a more forward walk, into a slightly quicker walk. And I'll go into actually change, if the horse happens to have a slightly slowish tempo, I'll show you how we can train that a bit later. But let's just do the simple gait changes of stop and go first. Okay, now ask him with your closing fingers in 2 beats. Go, and 1, 2. Okay, now if he does more than that, he'll get a bit heavy, won't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's fix that. So first of all, I'll show you, if you ask him to halt again, ask him a little bit more firmly, he'll be heavy, and if he is heavy, that means he's actually still pushing through the bit. Then I want you to actually bypass the halt and go straight into 1 step back with your reins and then release, because you'll get him lighter quite quickly that way. Now that's one little technique we can do. We don't want to do too many of that, but that will be making him lighter. Okay, so go forward, and then when you halt him, now be a little bit stronger, and step and give. Good. And go again. And then when you halt him, if he's at all heavy and not in 2 beats, good. And go and do 1 more, and then I'll move on to the next part of this about. Okay, and then halt. Okay, and if he's not heavy, then don't step back. Right, now the next stage is, what I want you to notice is with his feet, because of this central pattern generator that's in his spine that regulates the gaits, that's the control center for the gaits is actually in here. It's actually not in there, which is why it makes it difficult to train them to do a lot of gait change things like flying changes. And so one thing that happens in there is that the horse learns, when he's square at least, that the last leg that stopped is the first leg to go. Now, when he's not square like that, obviously his first leg to go is definitely going to be his right front leg, isn't it? But when he's square, the last leg to stop will be your first leg to go. And then what I want you to do is just do 6 steps, and I want you to think of actually closing your fingers and going and beginning your aid to stop on the end of step 4. That's only count his front legs, by the way, just so it's easy for you. We only ever count the front legs because it's too hard with the back. So you're counting 6 steps. So this is also to achieve lightness, because the more we achieve it in the walk, the better it is later. And so you begin at the end of step 4. So you're going like this. You're going 1, 2, 3, woo, woo, give at the end of the 6th step. So you only do 6. Okay, and we'll just see the effect of that, because it's a good exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good, well done. That's good. Usually what people will do is do 7 in the beginning, so I'm glad we've got that sorted. And now notice that his left front leg's in front, okay? We're just noticing it, because we're going to see if there are patterns in him that are part of his natural wiring. Of course, these patterns of of one leg being more in front of the other can be exacerbated by a riding too. But I'm just talking about his natural pattern, because they all have a natural pattern of one diagonal pair being a little bit stronger than the other. Okay, now his right front leg will be the first to go again. So go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's okay, don't worry. And now his right front leg's in front. Go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now what we can see, because we want the aids to work over a 2-beat system, what I want you to do is think to push him to go, and then say in those last 2 steps, woo, and just vibrate the last rein, the rein on the same side as the last leg, in order to not go forward, but just to come beside the other. If he stops mid-stance like that, that can happen. That's just a mistake. Okay, so go again. Push him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you often see the right front leg in front, but go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and woo. Right. Now, if he typically halts with the right front leg in front, and 75% of horses do, because the right front, left hind, that diagonal pair, horses work in diagonal pairs, or quadrupeds do, that has got slightly more running potential than the other one, which we maybe call the lazy pair. And we're not seeing a lot of it now, but you wait. When we start getting going, you will. Also, go again and see if you can vibrate your right rein at the last step. Okay, so, and when you're ready to stop and go, and woo. Just see if you can capture the right front leg, because you'll get him square. You see, squareness in the halt is not meant to be something you just fabricate and train. It's meant to be a product of a good, correct transition. Good. That was his left's a little bit closer. That's in front too. Go again. But it'll usually be the right front leg. Okay, so do you know which leg comes last now? Can you feel which is the last leg?
I think so.
Yeah, if you can, just vibrate that last rein. So when you're halting, if it's the right leg, just go and woo, just so it places rather than shoots past. Because it all helps to make him ambidextrous. It all helps to make him a little bit more responding to the rein aids. It just means otherwise that he shoots through your hand a little bit, and then almost missed it. Doesn't matter. It takes a while to get the hang of it, but go again. And go right, woo. Whoops, go again. So vibrate a bit more. Good. So that's a little bit squarer. Now, I'm assuming it. Now let's ask Bridget the question. Does he typically lean on the right rein, or is he typically stiffer right than left? Does he typically fall out to the right? That's his favoured way? Yeah. So he's a right front leg runner. I suspected that just from seeing these little weeny things, that he's typically more out with the right front leg than the left. And this is a small window. I'll show you another small window, and that is when Bridget goes to ask him to go rein back. Now, when you do, don't squeeze him with your legs. Just ask him to come back with your rein. Just squeeze and say back. You can slide your legs back if you like, but don't squeeze. Just back. 2, 3. Okay. Now, he probably knows better than to swing out. But this just with a right front leg runner, the standard model, what you see, and he is obviously he's middle grade, so he's been successful enough, so he's got some good training there. But with the standard model, the horse, what he'll usually do if he's a right front leg runner, like he is, and 75% of horses are, the other 25% are left front leg runners, and mares are often a bit more left than right. When you go backwards, this right front leg will be pushing him unevenly and doing a shorter step. So he'll go like this with his hindquarters. He'll start turning to the right. And then we're a bit inclined to help him with the with a whip tap or something, or spur on this side, when in fact the cause of it is the uneven drive of the front legs backwards. Because the engine for backwards is in here. If I can just point to him, you'll see that here he has pectoral muscles. He's got 3 here and 3 here. Now on either side, one of them on either side is for pulling the legs inwards, in other words an adduction, and the other 2, one pulls the leg forward and the other one pulls the leg back. And so these are heavily responsible for all our downward transitions. The trouble is they're weak. They're not very strong. Like if you dissect them out, they wouldn't even overflow a bucket. Whereas the muscle in the hind end's massive. He's really, he's got a lot of potential for going really fast. But the potential at the other end for slowing is quite small. So that's why when we do trot halts, we'll see that unless he uses his hindquarters, he won't be able to stop as well as he goes. It's a lot of power required to stop. So let's have a look at that. So while we're still looking at this gait thing, let's have a look at that, and then I'll start to talk about the contact and the self-carriage once we get going. Okay, so if you pop him into the trot now.
Do you want me to have contact?
Yeah, but not round, just long. So we're just saying to him, okay, as he goes. Now, what I'd like you to do is when you begin to halt while you're sideways to us, count how many front leg steps it takes to halt and ask him. How many did you notice when you first began to close?
4.
Yeah, I think it was more like 6, but yeah. But it doesn't matter. It's fine. But what I'm getting at is, see, when he halts like that, you want it in 4 beats on the young horse. You know, I was saying everything should be in 2 beats. But if you go down 2 gaits, that's therefore 2 beats per gate. So that would be 4 beats. Nonetheless, when you go down to 2 gates, like trot through the walk to the halt, that means there'll be a couple of steps of trot and a couple of steps of walk. So he'll still be a little bit out the back with the hindquarters. But once we start getting him to actually trot to the halt, which I'm glad he's a middle-level horse because we can get it in less steps now, we can expect it, he'll start to get his hindquarters more under him. So generally what you see is when you get it in 4 beats, if you can get it in, he's doing it in 6, if we can capture in 4, we begin to see squareness. What I'll get Bridget to do now is when you ask him to halt from trot, if you just vibrate your right rein in the downward transition, so you're trotting and just go and woo, woo, and use both reins, but just focus on the right because he's always right front. You'll see that again just there. He's typically right, you know, when the running leg's always in the start blocks on horses, ready to run. And we're going to make him more even. So when you're ready, just see if you can hold him in 4 steps or less. So you have to use a bit more rein pressure and go woo woo. So go woo woo, and you watch his back legs as well. Good. Okay. And that was better. That was less steps. Now, ask him again. So you just do that. Okay. You focus on trying to have a look down. See his right front leg's in front, and that partner leg, that left hind's in front too. So the more you use your right rein, the more he'll start to get square. Okay, because see, this is the weakest link for lightness. You can't really get them light if you don't capture the leg that's the most out of control. It's his right front, left hind. So go trot and jump into trot. Boom. Good. Go button's pretty good. Okay, and then when you're ready, halt. Okay. Okay, and you keep focusing on the right so he gets more square. And zoom him off into trot so he jumps into trot. So the upward transition is always going to be in 2 beats because there's enough power in the back end to do everything in 2 beats, even up 2 gates. And then go sit and go woo woo. Good. And you might notice that now we've caught his right front leg, but which is good. But you might notice that when this is happening, if you watch the hind legs now, you see the partner of the right front leg, the other couplet, which is the left hind, sometimes make the mistake of doing a long step. Now, a transition is really like a smooth reduction in tempo and an exponential reduction in stride length, because the tempo just goes like this. It goes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, smooth, like music. But the stride length actually is more exponential, because if your step length is like that, even from walk halt, the first step of halt is still this long, but the second step's only that long. So there's much more demands, and that's why I'm saying to rattle the rein on the last step, because otherwise the last step won't land here. It'll want to go and shoot forward. And you'll see it in the opposite partner, so you'll see his left hind, even though it should be reducing in size all the time, it suddenly does a big one because it's out of control. And so that's what happens. You see this everywhere. Even horses, uneven piafs and passages are because the running pair's not been attended to. Okay, so pop them into trot. And again, do it again. And see if you can go and woo-woo. There's a long one. See how the left hind did a long one? So we want it to, it's not bad, but we'd like to reduce it more. And jump into trot again and do another one. And zoom. And just always think with him a little bit more woo-woo in the right rein, because you've got to capture that right front leg. Good boy. Yeah? That's all right. Good. Yeah. And if you feel him lean on the right rein like you did exactly the right thing. Say, back off, because they're born unevenly like this. And we often get taught to just use our reins and legs together, but we never really think about how we talk to one diagonal pair. And yet, you would already know, at his level in dressage, you actually need to talk to one diagonal pair. And again, like if you might want to say to him in a pirouette, as you're doing pirouette, you might want to say to the left hind, shorten, because it's making the pirouette way too big. Because the hind legs go like this in pirouette, over, and then the other leg goes and runs out of control, and over, and so you've got a really big pirouette. So you've got to, with your outside rein, in other words, one diagonal pair, you've got to go over, good boy, hey, whoa, over, whoa, so that he does a small one. So capturing that's one small example as one big thing. Do one more. Now, see if you can think, imagine you're coming to a cliff edge, so use a bit more pressure and go, and woo, good. Right, and again, so imagine, see if you can do it in just 2 beats, where you really sit him on his bottom and go, as long as you go woo, give, there's no problem. So, and good. Now then, they're square. Now see, apart from, oops, you sneaked. But anyway, what happens there is, that's throughness. Now, if you look on the American, the USDF website, or it's on many dressage websites, the definition of what throughness is. The actual definition is when the rein aids flow through to the back legs. Now, that concept of throughness, you see, because it's so hard to get back legs responding to rein aids, and that's how you do it. It's in the trot halt, because it starts to get him square. And you'll notice that when he halts now, and it's going to be even easier, he starts to actually sit with his hindquarters, and his hind legs go, and they dig in and go lower, because he can't do it with his pectoral muscles. They're just not big enough or powerful enough. So when we halt from trot to walk, when we halt from trot, trot to halt, when it's in 4 beats, that makes it smooth. When we halt in 3 beats, that makes it smooth and square. So we started to see squareness. And when we can halt in 2 beats, like we would want with an FEI horse, it's smooth, square, and through. In other words, the throughness means his back hooves will be just 1 hoof print closer to his front legs and sitting underneath his stifles. And when we do this regularly, this becomes his posture, and now he will have the through posture in all his work. He'll be a little bit more uphill, and that's what we want. Okay, so jump him into trot again, and zoom. Good, really good. Now, and then again, and woo. Good boy. That was good with his back legs. The other left. Now, if the left front didn't come forward, it's only because he needed just a little bit more less contact on the left rein to enable it, because he would have. But that was really good. Have a look also, now at the other end of the scale, we've done the stop button, at the go button. Now his go is really good, I like that, and he's a good example of that, because when she does go from halt, especially when it's his left hind, which is coupled with his right front, that's his running pair. He loves that one. So if his left hind's the first one to go, he's super off that. He jumps straight into trot. You watch. So go trot. You watch. Whichever leg it is, it's the right. Right. See how that right hind is a little bit weaker. He had a bit of a sink, and that's just because his lazy pair is a little bit weaker. Now you watch the other one. Oh, hang on. Okay. So when you're ready, we'll do the upward transition again. So whichever one we've got, we're going to have. Now it'll be, it'll be his left hind, jump. See, he's actually quite strong on that. He's quite upright on that when he goes forward. So that's he goes good off that, but the other leg just a little bit weaker. And halt, and then trot. And boom, good. Now, he made it look easy, but a lot of horses, when they first do this off the weak leg, they need a lot of work from the go button there, because if it's his right hind and left front that's the lazy pair, he'll do this. His right hind you're saying trot, and his right hind will say, no, not yet, it's way too hard, wait for this one. And this one says, I love it. So he'll actually do it. So you see, we've got to recognise these diagonal pair differences and repair them, so that when he gets to the higher levels, it's really easy. Okay, now what I want you to think of now is, I'm just going through some of these basic things. So let him go long again, as much as longer. Oh no, not that long. Just longer with his nose. Okay. So I've looked at gait. Now let's look at tempo. Okay, so see if you now with your riding forward and just in the walk, we'll play with the walk and make the walk just a bit quicker and slower. And I want to do this actually for everybody here so you really recognise that when we use these terms like forward and we say the walk isn't forward, we should really think of another way of explaining what we really want, because forward can be stride length and tempo. So I'm looking at tempo. Tempo is a musical term just meaning the speed of the beat, right? And the speed of the beat, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now that's pretty good tempo. If I have a look at that, keep it going. 1, 1, 1, 1. Oh, I missed it, sorry. Keep going. Make him a little bit quicker. So squeeze quickly up. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right, that's really good. So that's well past, that was 58, so that's really good. And so he's got well and truly within his capability of showing a really good tempo. Now that's important because a lot of, especially the old style warm bloods don't. You know, they're often, you go faster, they just go, no, I just go longer. And longer makes the legs slower. Longer's really good for getting a winning, for horse to win at the mid-levels. They win really a lot in the mid-levels and then you never see them again because you can't make them quicker. So we've got to teach horses a quicker button as opposed to a longer button. So I'll just explain what that is. So if we think of it as our cars, what we're going to do is squeeze him and think of going squeeze, squeeze. And with our seat, we try and keep our seat the same, because if we go longer with the seat and hands, our seat's telling him one thing and our leg's telling him the other. You know, our seat could be saying go long and our leg's saying go faster. I just simply wanted to go faster. So if my step length is like this, I want to just walk like this. Excuse me. But that's why I want him to walk quicker, but not longer. And then we'll do longer, so you can see the difference. So go quick, but don't move your arms so much. Because, yeah, just move them as the amount you did before when he was shorter, and just keep that. And say, make him quicker now, quicker. And squeeze him quicker. Good boy. That's it. Very good. That's it. And now, if you have trouble making the horse quicker, one good thing to do is to push him so much that he does 1/2 step of trot. Because see, this is in the area of sub 60 beats a minute, but the trot's 75. So we're going to be really filling in the gap of the 60s and early 70s. So think of making him almost trot, like in fact trot. Whoop, and stop it. Good. And do it again where just one back leg trots. Whoop. Good. And catch him even earlier. Just make him quick. There. Good, awesome. That's what I mean. Just make one leg quicker. And of course, guess who loves going quicker? The old left hind, right front, which is normal, but that's what happens. So you can also, when you know this about your horse, don't get fooled by that. Say, I'd like to see the right hind go quicker too, and quick. So you can actually ask him with the right legs around like now. Go, good. Yeah, that's good. That's nice and quick. Good boy. So this is the sort of horse. If you can make him quicker, this is the horse that goes to the top. And I'm really convinced with that, because they've got to be able to go quicker. If they can't go quicker, they just don't. They're unable to do the higher movements as easily, and you can't. If they do, it's all too slow. Okay. Now, as your hands go forward and back, just doing the backwards motion, just go woo woo. And that's why it's in 2 beats. It's got to be smooth. It's not like woo. It's like woo woo, and that's a really slow walk. Good boy. Slow walk. Keep going. Yeah, slow. Good. And then now quicker and zoom. Right. That's how he learns the button, by just doing these transitions. It's simple. It's just faster, slower, and slower, and woo. Good. Now that's pretty good. That's almost in 2 beats. So that's a nice transition to slower. And then now make him quicker in 2 beats. So he goes in straight away. Good. And slower. Right. So we need those differences to be very clear. Okay. And I'll come back to tempo in a minute, because this is going to